we had a pre-party, and we ended up playing a one-song set for 70 minutes. And it was purely improv, and it was really exciting. And some parts were badass, and some parts were like, oh, where are we going? And we find our footing. And I think that's like, it was like a choose your own adventure that the fans and we were a part of in real time. It was so much fun. And I don't know, that's just the way that we approach things.
What's up, Greg? How are you?
I'm great. How's it going?
I'm doing well. We've met before. I don't know if you remember. We chatted about a year ago, before
Yeah,
your most recent record came out.
I thought so. Awesome.
Yeah.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you again. Are you in the van?
I am in the car,
Oh, the car.
actually. Yeah, I got a like band thing right after, but we got time. Can you hear me? I have my ears in. I could also take them out if that's better.
No, it sounds great.
Cool. Awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, last time I chatted with you, I think you were probably in your house. You had your the pigeons behind you, the piece of art behind you.
Oh, sure. Yeah, there's pigeons all over the house.
Amazing, dude. Well, again, I'm Adam, and it's great to chat. I'd love to catch up. This podcast is again about you and your journey in music. We kind of got the origin story of the band last time, so maybe we could just recap on that a little bit. And I want to talk to you maybe a bit more because the album hadn't came out. It was coming out like on that coming Friday or something in April 2020 last year, I think. And
Yep.
then I want to talk to you about the festival you have coming up in Florida.
That all sounds great. I could talk about that and anything else, man.
Awesome. Cool. So I remember you were what, born and raised in Long Island, right? Long Island, New York.
That's right. Yep. Port Washington, New York, on the North Shore of Long Island, not too far from the city. And yeah, it was a good place to live. I like living in Maryland now, but it all started in New York.
Yeah, I remember you saying that you really started playing guitar kind of late, right? The band kind of started when you were in college, right? I mean, you met the guys kind of right away.
Yeah, that's right. So I always was a singer. I've been singing since I was like 5 years old, or as long as I can remember. But eventually I wanted to start playing guitar just so I could kind of accompany myself and, just it's you kind of see it on TV and in the movies. Like when you go to college, you're probably playing guitar at a campfire, at a party or
In the
whatever.
dorm party
So I
or
picked
something.
up exactly right. It's what you do. So I picked up guitar and took a few lessons and really didn't like that structured vibe of it. So I put it down for a while, picked it back up right before school, and started teaching myself the songs I actually wanted to play. Because Mary Had a Little Lamb was pretty boring. In hindsight, I wish I stuck with it, from the get-go with sheet music and things like that, but it wasn't jazzing me up. So ultimately, I just started, teaching myself classic rock and things like that. And I had been playing for about 6 months when I went to school. And on the first day of college, similarly, like because I've seen made-for-TV movies about college, I walked down the hall of my freshman dorm with guitar in hands to make some friends, and ended up after a couple swings and misses that first day of school meeting Jeremy Schoen, our guitarist, who we started jamming the first day I met him, and we'll be jamming later today. So 15 years later.
That's wild, man.
Even longer from that first time we met. I met him in the fall of 2006. So God, it's been what, 17 years? That's just insane, man. Yeah, half my life I've been jamming with Jeremy.
That's amazing, dude. Yeah. Well, you said there was a couple of swings and misses where you just cruising around the halls with the guitar and we're like, oh, hey, do you play? And they're like,
Yeah, no,
no.
there were other people playing guitar with their door open because they must have seen the same movie I did.
Okay.
And we just jammed on some stuff that didn't vibe really well. I mean, I just coming up in Long Island, we didn't listen, at least my friends and family didn't really listen to a lot of bluegrass, and
Uh-huh.
there were some folks playing things like that, and I just my ears weren't ready for it yet. But when I walked into Jeremy's room, he was much funkier, and he was a little bit of jazzy stuff, and I wasn't listening to jazz at all, but it just vibed a lot better, and we just clicked as friends as well. I ended up being friends with the people I jammed with initially, but we did not start a psychedelic funk band together.
Yeah. That's so funny though. You go into the dorm room like, oh dude, you play? Yeah. And then they're playing for a few minutes. You're like, okay, yeah, cool. Dude, nice to meet you. And then what, you just
Yeah,
walk out and you
exactly.
go to the
It
next
was
room.
fine. Exactly. I remember it. He had a black acoustic guitar. We played Wagon Wheel, and I just my mind, my ears weren't ready for that yet. Now I think Wagon Wheel is great, but coming fresh out of Long Island, it was very foreign to me.
That's so
But
funny.
I hadn't. I mean, Jeremy really morphed my musical taste in general. I hadn't listened to any jam music at all when I went to school. I was much more like, pop radio, classic rock from my dad in the car, and I was in musicals as a kid. So like, I listened to a lot of like System of a Down. I listened to like Eminem and Red Hot Chili Peppers and Stevie Wonder, and I had never heard of Soul Live or
Oh yeah.
the New Master Sounds or any of these bands. I'd never listened to Fish at all. And after meeting Jeremy, fast forward a few years, I'd seen them like 50 times. So he
Oh
really,
wow.
opened me up to this world, and I'm forever indebted to him for it.
That's so funny. Yeah, yeah, you hadn't heard those bands, then pretty soon you got a blacklight poster and some incense and
Well, there were blacklight
just
posters.
kidding.
They were just sublime. They were sublime. They were. I had been to Spencer's Gifts. I just, yeah,
I have been to Spencer's Gifts.
yeah. I knew my way around some incense in a dark basement, but
That's
not for
hilarious.
Fish. The food
That's
didn't last as long.
that's too funny,
Where
man.
did you grow up, Adam?
I grew up in San Diego, so
Oh, really?
I know quite about a bit about the reggae world, and Sublime was a big part of my life growing up. But yeah, I mean, in San Diego, reggae is a massive scene. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, just there we had bands like Pepper lived there, and Slightly
Yep.
Stupid did some move out of there, and yeah, it was just that was kind of the ethos of a lot of San Diego. I mean, we had a lot of like POD and stuff came from there, and Blink, obviously, but I used to be on the radio. I worked on the radio for 17 years, and that was a big piece of our catalog was like Sublime every hour, and
Yeah.
Bob Marley. We had like a whole day, or every Sunday morning was dedicated to Bob Marley, and yeah, that was just kind of the vibe, which I wasn't really. I mean, growing up there, that wasn't like what I tend to like, cater to, but I've always
Yeah.
had a big appreciation for it.
Well, and I'd listened to Pepper before college, and like the Expendables, and
Oh, sure.
some of my friends are like way into reggae, still are. They might be coming to Baltimore for a festival this summer for reggae bands, which is cool. But I get it, like, that's what to do something,
Oh, sorry, you
whereas other
froze there.
places.
You said
Oh,
I heard you say I get it, and then it kind of cut out.
well, if there's like reggae in your hometown and everyone listens to that, you have to go counter to reggae, right? You have to find
Right.
your own, counterculture option. Whereas in other places, reggae like is the counter, or could have been the counter to top 40. That's
Right.
pretty funny.
No, 100%. Like my friends in high school, a lot of my friends, because I liked punk. I was into punk and like emo and that world in like the late '90s, early 2000s. And like my friends were going to the Pepper concerts, and they're like, "Oh, dude, Pepper's playing," and it was like, "Again, we're going," and I'm like, "I'm good," like, And then I eventually kind of gained. I like the band now, and I met the guys when I worked at the radio station and stuff, and they're great. But it was just at the time, when I was 14, 15, 16 years old, it just wasn't my my
Yeah.
vibe.
Well, exactly, right? Like I looked like my view of Fish without listening to their music was completely backwards to what the community actually is about and what their shows were about. Just you had to kind of experience it firsthand, and you know, I totally get that. It's a journey.
No, 100%. I've seen Fish once, and it was I was doing radio in San Francisco for about 5 years, and they played the festival Outside Lands, and it was I think they played for 3 hours. It was insane.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Fish at a festival is very different from Fish at their own show.
Oh,
Even
I
for us,
bet.
like, when we're traveling around playing festivals in the summer, it's it's a balance between like wanting, like, we always keep our set list fresh. We've never repeated a set in our career, and
Oh my
love
gosh. In 15
out
years
like,
or you
yeah,
you guys
yeah.
haven't repeated it?
Yeah, not to my knowledge. But when you're at a festival, you also like, since we love playing like bust out songs or covers we haven't played in years, it keeps it fresh for us. But when you're at a festival, you also have to balance like, okay, this is not just people who are coming to see our band. There's people who are just walking around and stopped in front of the stage. Maybe we should play some of the, songs that are a little more well known or a little less rare, mixed in with, bust outs that are exciting for us and the fans too. And we actually this past weekend, we kind of were talking about that and played a lot of stuff that people know, but we also played some brand new songs. And it was a rainy festival, so we decided to throw in "Love Rain on Me" by the Who, just
That's
to
rad.
lean into that as well. So it's funny how you kind of have to think about, to a degree, you have to think about who's there and who's seen you before and who hasn't, but you also have to do what vibes with you and not overthink about what people want to hear, because ultimately you got to play what you want to hear and hope they like it, because once you
Yeah.
get too caught up into like what people want, it really waters down the whole process, and it's not as genuine. So it's an interesting kind of mental balance and mental gymnastics to put set lists together.
I was gonna say, especially if you're not repeating it ever, right? I mean, like, how do you even like
Well, we repeat songs, just not
right, but
in the
not in
same
the
order.
right in that
Yeah.
order, right? But I mean, after so many shows, I remember we were talking before, and you were saying you guys are doing like 200 shows a year. Like, how do you times X amount of years? Like, do you just know, like, okay, here's like 5 or 6 songs, or maybe there's 10 songs. Like, we know we'll play these a few times during the tour, almost like every night of the tour, whatever. And we just have to figure out what other things to kind of slide in there.
No, it's not. So I'm sure some bands do it like that. And to clarify, we used to play 200 shows a year. Now we probably play like anywhere from 90 or 90 to 110 or so. It's still a lot.
Oh, still, I
Um,
mean, even
yeah,
190, I mean, 90 shows to not repeat your lit set. That's
yeah. Well, but no, we don't like say, okay, these 10 songs are going to get played. We really just we have over 100 originals. We
right.
probably have like 400 or 500 covers at this point, like I don't even know.
Oh my God.
So you have options, and what we really kind of, I think about more, and our Jeremy, our guitarist, writes the bones of the set first, and then we weigh in and tweak it together. We think about just like overall flow, like, you know depending on where we are, do we come out absolutely swinging for the fences, or do we ease them in? And then from that peak, at what point does the crowd need a break from like high energy, to high fast tempo stuff, to kind of cool down and groove to something else? So it's kind of just like looking at the bigger picture, and then we have different songs that serve different purposes. Like we have songs that close a set really well, or like we have songs that like are a nice exclamation point as an encore. We also have songs that, like I said, give you that like kind of break from the like overwhelming excitement, that like grooves in cool different ways to give you a second to like catch your breath but still be, interested in what's going on with the soundscapes that we're working with. And we kind of, can swap those out for different song types as we tour, and kind of just like focus on the peaks and valleys of the sets, and not so much like what specific song gets played. And then of
Yeah.
course, like, we do keep in mind, like, we just released last time we spoke, we released an album, Perspective.
Uh-huh.
And when we were on that tour, we did try to like, within the peaks and valleys of the show, let's make sure we sprinkle in some of the new album, because we're touring, it's literally Perspective tour. So like
Right.
ideally, but like that's not a rule. And whereas I think in, pop music or maybe other bands focus more on that, like, and maybe our managers wish we did more. If it doesn't, we're not gonna force a song into a set if it doesn't serve the set and serve the
Right.
show. And we also like we jam. So sometimes a song lasts 10 minutes longer than usual because the jam was really unique and interesting and we chased the rabbit hole, and that means we have to cut something off the set on the fly or swap out the last song for a shorter one because we're running out of time. So it's good to have we often have like a little bit of a backup list, like a short list of maybe 5 tracks that we could sub in. We often have like one shorty available because a lot of our songs are longer, but it's nice to
Yeah.
have a couple 4-minute songs in your back pocket in case, especially at a festival where you need to end on time so the next band starts and the schedule stays on. It's nice to have some backups just so you can let songs take you on a journey and you don't feel like you have to wrap it up to stay on schedule if it's going well.
Yeah. Two things that you said that really intrigued me. One is we'll hold on to it. We'll, have a shorty wait, just kind of there, like a 4-minute song, which coming from
Right.
radio,
Yeah.
like if somebody tries to pitch a 4-minute song, like a lot of radio programmers would be like, you're out of your mind. Let's cut this down to like 2:30. You know what I mean? And you
Yeah.
guys are like, yeah, like 4 minutes, have a short song in there.
And that's something like, we try not to overthink about these days, but over the years, like when we record our albums in the studio, that is a conversation where like, okay, are there sections of this song where we could trim the fat a little bit, but not lose like the integrity of the song structure? So, like a vamp when like in between verses, can we cut this vamp in half and then, Jeremy might be like, oh no, I actually, this builds because I play this line the first time and then the second half of the vamp I play it a different one and it lifts it up. Other times he's like, yeah, we all play the same parts. We could trim this down and try to keep it like slightly more concise, and I wouldn't say radio friendly because now they're still not 2:30,
Right.
time
Yeah.
run
Yeah.
time, but we want to keep the listener engaged, and it's always an interesting practice taking the live expansive song and seeing where we can make it a little more concise and a little more focused while not losing any of the key flavors.
Yeah, 100%. And I love that you guys you almost essentially just me again going from like a programming world. You program your set in a way where it's like you guys are DJing the crowd in a sense. Like, okay, we need this set to go. Is it gonna come out like we're gonna come out, heavy here, or not heavy, but like, upbeat, and then we got to kind of drop it down, and like you kind of like have the peaks and valleys inserted into your set a certain way, and that itself takes a lot of thinking and work, and just to kind of even build something that would be enjoyable to a crowd of people.
Sure, yeah, and it's all about like, yeah, the set and setting, like what time of day is it? Some songs like slap a lot harder at night when the light show is, blinding, and we can, really get after it right out of the gate. Like if we're playing a late night set at midnight, it's going to be a different opener than 4 o'clock day set,
Right.
and we also like let that setting and the situation kind of dictate where we should play. Like if cover wise, we're going to play probably different covers if it's a sunny beautiful day versus inside in a late night barn. Like it's just you kind of let it flow, and I think for bands that are like, again, like in the pop scene, where if they have a 2-hour banging show and they play it every night, I'm sure that gets dialed in so hard and it's incredibly effective and they know what's coming and they just work on the nooks and crannies, but it's like a product that they can deliver guaranteed.
Mhm.
Whereas, on the other hand, though, I could see that getting, as a performer, kind of stale, hard to find inspiration when it's night in, night out, the same thing.
Yeah.
It's, at least coming from the jam world, it's so exciting for us every show because, even if we know what songs are on the set list for starters, the jams are truly improvised. So like we start in the same spot and we hope to end in the same spot, but that middle section really could go anywhere, and it makes us feel like we're almost in the crowd, and I think that's what is exciting for fans. And I mean, just the other month we threw our own music festival called Dome Fest, and for
Uh-huh.
the we had a pre-party and we ended up playing a 1 song set for 70 minutes, and it was purely improv. and it was really exciting. And some parts were badass and some parts were like, oh, where are we going? And we find our footing. And I think that's like, it was like a choose your own adventure that the fans and we were a part of in real time. It was so much fun. And I don't know, that's just the way that we approach things. I bet if we put together a 75-minute set of our best bangers and our best like valleys for the peaks, like I'm sure it would be a very effective show, but I think it would get old really quick.
Yeah, and I think your
For us.
fans and you guys have been doing this for such a long time with such success. Like, why change the format? You know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
would your
never.
fans
We're
would be
not
like,
considering it at all.
no, I know you're not. I'm just saying, like, in general, like if you were, your fans would be like, what the hell? Like, we just saw this. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like,
yeah, that would be a funny way to make headlines. Like jam band plays same set in 2 nights.
that's like a Hard Times article.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Celebrated for their ingenuity. We're also like so fortunate to see a lot of the same faces in the crowd every night. At least even like on like for a week in the same region where it's doable travel wise. Or some people have gone for a 3-4 week tour every show. And it's, we're almost, we want to keep it special for us and fresh for them. And, it's just so much fun doing it that way.
That's cool. I'm curious, if on that set you said you guys did one song and it went 70 minutes. You vocally, are you just jamming, or like how do you come in and sing pieces, or is it for you, or are you just kind of like there in the midst and the mic is just there waiting for you?
Yeah, I didn't sing in the middle of this one. We've done one song set I think 3 times, and I don't think I ended up singing in any of them, but it's available if that's where the mood was taking us. In fact, afterward, our bassist Ben was like, "Yeah, when we got into that like reggae section, I had this like vocal idea. I decided not to do it. I wasn't sure, but I was like, hey man, like it's improv." I also almost started singing at one point, but there's also something kind of cool about playing instrumental for that long.
Right.
But yeah, it's like I said, it was truly a choose your own adventure. The microphone was sitting there waiting for me and I almost went to it, but you don't want to force it and you really got to listen to what everyone is playing. And as soon as someone like gets too, hopped up on one idea and kind of tries to push it through, that's where it starts to fall apart. You really got to drop the ego and play as a group. So
Yeah.
I felt it, but the mere fact that I second guessed myself, I'm happy I didn't sing, because it, especially with something like improvised singing, like you need to like know what you're doing, feel it in your soul, and let it rip. You can't be like, "Ooh, what could I rhyme with here?" Like you really just gotta
Right.
let it roll.
Yeah. Just to actually, because I didn't talk to you about this or ask you about this in the last interview. Do you come from a musical household at all? I mean, you said you started singing at an early age. Like, what kind of sparked that, or like?
You know, I mean, my family likes music, but no one's a singer, no one's a musician. I grew up around great music, but it was nothing like out of this world. Like I probably told you last time, like Stevie Wonder,
Yeah,
Elton
yeah,
John,
yeah.
Billy Joel from Long Island, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd. But the big thing when I look back on it is when in first grade, I met one of my best friends for life. He was a co-best man at my wedding with Jeremy,
Amazing.
just a brother from another mother. And his mom was his parents were musical and involved with theater, and his mom was the director for most of the school plays in our, from elementary school or definitely in high school. And being best friends with him and going to his house all the time. I wouldn't say we listened to music a lot at his house, but I got involved with the plays at a very young age. And that's where I started singing. And as I got older, he did choirs, his older brother did choirs, I did choirs.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so it was kind of like, I called her back in the day, Mommy Number Two, because I was at their house so much. And Mommy Number Two is a musical theater nut and a director, and definitely is how I ended up down that path.
That's cool. That is cool. Did you do musical theater through high school?
Yeah, so I was I think in kindergarten everyone has to be in the kindergarten circus
Yeah,
in
I have
my
a
neck
my
of the
my
woods.
son's in second grade and he's done well, he does dance, which is different, but he's been in like they've done like two plays, you know,
Right.
kindergarten and first grade. They're like, everyone
See the
has to do
tapes.
it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it took for me. Like I really enjoyed doing it, but I also played sports, and I ended up playing soccer and doing musicals from like 5 to 17. Eventually, come like junior year of high school, I think I dropped soccer, at least in the high school. I still played in like club and whatever, but I started doing 2 musicals a year instead of one, because normally the sports season would steal me from one of them.
Uh-huh.
Ultimately, the musical theater won that battle, but I did both for my whole childhood, and it really prepared me to be on stage. Like it's weird, I think when people get nervous before shows, I think that's a positive thing. It means they care. It means that they're, amping themselves up for the upcoming adrenaline rush and all that.
Mhm.
But I've been on stage for so long, like I can hardly remember not being on stage, that I don't, unless it's like really an enormous show, or someone tells me that, which I prefer they not, but someone tells me like some important bigwig is in the crowd. I
Right.
really don't get like butterflies per se.
Mhm.
Um, but I think that's also because when I was 10 years old, I forgot my lines on stage in The Taming of the Shrew, and froze, and was quiet on stage while everyone looked at me for 10 seconds. And I figured it out and got through the scene, and like realized that life goes on, and it's okay for that to happen. It's not as bad as your, anxieties might make it seem it would be. So
Right.
surviving that, and all the various things from the 20 however many musicals I was in, prepared me to just like be comfortable. I will say though, there was a big adjustment going from doing plays to playing concerts, because when you're doing a play, you can hide behind your character. Like I'm not goofy. That's just what the Cowardly Lion would have done. But
Right.
all of a sudden it was like, nope, this is Greg Ormont, and everything he says and does is a reflection of what he feels and thinks and acts. And that was an adjustment to get used to, because it's a little more naked when it's known that this is just you, and this is how you act, and this is the banter you chose to say at that
Right.
moment and on the fly and things like that. But like it's 15 years later, I'm comfortable in that as well. So
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say, because if you said the lion, right? You're everyone knows the Wizard of Oz and they know what to expect, and you kind of have that, like, okay, this is already a hit. You're in a hit in a sense, right? And like, if you're going up to a stage with your own music, oh, do you got to roll?
no,
Oh,
someone just hit a gentleman who opened his car door and hit it the opposite way, and we'll see how this goes. But my car is
jeez.
fine. I was just checking.
Oh
This is
man.
why you take interviews in the house. Although my dogs would probably be chasing cats, and there's always something.
But this also adds to the interview because now you just witnessed an
Yeah, we'll
accident.
see. Yeah, that's
And
right.
it was recorded. And
I'll
if the
point you.
court needs this, I
Yeah,
will license
we
it
have
to
the
them for
audio.
for a certain price.
Yeah, I can confirm his door is not closing because it was hitting the opposite way, and I think she knows.
Okay.
Um, all
Uh,
as well. It's
oh
funny. I
yeah.
was considering parking there.
Good thing you didn't. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. Wow. Yeah, I was just saying, like, yeah, because you're going up on stage with your own material and you are, in a sense, having to be yourself and banter with the crowd or do your thing in a certain way. And also, like, I mean, you said you forgot your lines. It's like it's interesting because you remember that, right? But everyone else in that crowd that night doesn't. That's not even a thought in their mind. You know what I mean? Like, or even after the fact.
Well, and or even like today, right? So like having a bit of perspective there, where yeah, they probably maybe some said, "Oh, remember when that kid forgot his line that night?" And then maybe, even if it was really bad in 3 years, someone would be like, "Remember that time that kid forgot?" Okay, but now it's been like 25 years,
Right.
and I don't think it comes up a lot. And if it did, who
That's
cares? You,
if
you
it did,
know?
that guy's got some problems.
And the
Let's
other
be honest.
and the other thing, it's like what felt like a traumatic experience for me. Well, I mean, clearly I've had a blessed life if that's a traumatic experience for me, but like it ended up being one of the most important things that ever happened to me. And I try to like think about that all the time. Like there's that classic old fable where, there's like a farmer and a wild horse, shows up on his farm, and he's like, wow, all the townspeople are like, wow, what great news, you got a new horse. And he's like, yeah, it might be good, might be bad, we'll see. And then the next day, his son gets on the wild horse, and the horse throws the son off the horse. He breaks his back, and everyone's like, oh no, what bad news, your son broke his back. And he said, it might be good, might be bad. And then the next day, the army comes to recruit all the able-bodied men, and the son's life is saved because he hurt himself, and it might be good or might be bad. So like that type of thing, like with the Taming of the Shrew, I was like, wow, that was mortifying. I am, maybe I won't do this anymore. And then years later, it ended up, giving me the confidence to be loose with my banter. And who knows, maybe that's not a good thing. Maybe I'll end up saying something really stupid because I'm too loose, but I try not to like take it at face value.
Right. Well, that's a beautiful perspective on it. Going into, because last time we talked, you hadn't had perspective out, and now you do, and you were talking to me about working on it over the pandemic and kind of having that time, and we're able to collaborate quite a bit with other people. And since then, are you guys writing? Have you been writing a new music, or was it like basically, okay, now we can tour, let's play festivals and work, and obviously play out this record? But like, what are you guys working on now as far as music goes?
Oh man, yeah, we are constantly writing music. It does not matter if an album came out today, we're at practice writing new songs. It's just exciting, and yeah, I mean, we are, when we're not on stage, we're working on, new music, new ideas. We have our music festival where you have other events throughout the year. We're constantly like, this is our 100% full-time gig, and we're always writing. Like I said, just this past week and at Dome Fest recently, we released 2 new songs, and we got more in the bag. Like we're always always writing, and always working on our individual stuff, working together, working in so. And again, like I kind of been saying, like it's more exciting when you're playing something new. Like there's some songs we've played a million times, and it's fun to play those songs, but again, for me, I'm really looking forward to the jams of those songs, because I know like how the verse goes, how the chorus goes, but once we get to that jam, it's back to like, you know the truly unique experience of it all.
Mhm.
And when you play new music, those verses and choruses feel really fresh, and that's exciting. It's a good like dose of excitement.
Yeah. And you guys always do albums too, which I think is so cool.
Yeah,
Instead of being
and
like, okay, I got 2 songs, I'm gonna put those out. I mean, you guys do singles, obviously, but then it always leads into an album.
well, because we always are writing like at practice and stuff, and debuting stuff on tour instead of like waiting to release albums with all this material. Like I feel like whenever you could stop us at any point and we can get in the studio and probably record 1.5, 2 albums of songs that aren't on studio,
Damn.
um, at any given time. So like even if we hopped in the studio and started recording, we probably already have another one ready. It's just a matter of like, we like experiencing it live. Like we like debuting music and seeing what the crowd responds to. Because again, when we were talking about like where we could potentially trim the fat, I can visibly see if like a vamp is too long and we like lose them for a second. We get them back, but like if there's like a 10-second window, sorry, if there's like a 10-second window, I can see where we can maybe trim things. Um, so
Oh,
I
do you
think
got to
that
roll? Is that
no,
the
well, no,
accident person?
the people who got in the accident probably do want me as a witness, which I can provide for them. But I don't think they know that I'm on a very important podcast right now.
Well,
There's so there's like the phone signal, but there's not the like I guess I could say we're rolling, but we need like the podcast hand signal for these moments.
we do. You should. We'll try to come up with one for next time. But
Yeah,
I don't want.
we'll
I want to
workshop
make sure
it.
that these people get taken care of, because that sucks. But I want to
Yeah.
talk to you real quick. I got 2 more things, because you guys are doing the Hulaween, which I want to just have you guys played this before? I know it's a big thing. I had a chance to talk with the guys from Lettuce who have been on it every year, and even before it was called Hulaween. Is this your first experience with this, or what can you tell me about it?
This is actually our second Hulaween. I think we played it like 4 years ago, but we've been to Suwannee in Florida, where the music festival is, many, many times. And it is hands down one of my favorite places to visit in the country. We've played, I have no idea how many festivals we played, but every time we go to Suwannee, it's just a purely magical experience. And Hulaween always puts together an amazing lineup. It's something that we wanted to do for years, and they finally tapped us, I think, in 2019, and we're coming back. And I just love it because it's just a peaceful, beautiful place to be. It's inspiring just to be there. And when you're surrounded by other great bands, the inspiration doesn't stop. So I'm excited to play and have fun, and then soak in all the other bands that they booked. It's a top to bottom phenomenal lineup, and that actually kicks off our fall tour. And we go straight to New Orleans, which again is like Inspiration City for music and food. And then we have Halloween in Austin, Texas, another incredible spot. Where this whole fall tour, we're going to some of my favorite places in the country. Like, we're going to Denver, we're going to Seattle, we're going to Portland, we're going to San Francisco, San Diego, I think so.
I'm in
LA.
Nashville now, but yeah, I wish you were, but I don't think you're coming here, unfortunately. But
We were in Nashville not long ago. We played the Brooklyn Bowl. It was really cool.
Yeah, I
really
did remember seeing that. Yeah, you're playing Observatory in San Diego, which is a dope venue, though. It's probably the coolest one in the.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Hulaween's gonna be great, and then we fly like super hard into fall tour. I'm really looking forward to it.
That's amazing. I mean, you guys are pretty high up in the lineup too, which is probably a really cool thing to see. I don't know where you were at 4 years ago on it, but to be there again, kind of climbing towards the top, that's got to be a great feeling.
Yeah, it is. I try not to pay too much attention to font size. I just want to, make it happen once we're there and do our thing. But yeah, it's an honor to see our name higher up on the lineups, and it's an honor we don't take lightly. We gotta, show up and throw it down, and hopefully that's what we do. That's why we practice so much. So
yeah,
it should be fun.
Funny. That's funny that you said we don't pay attention to font sizes. I just remember when I worked for the radio station, we booked like a summer concert and a one in the around Christmas time. And we had a band that was going back and forth with our graphic designer who was putting together the poster about how big the name was on the font. Like their name had to be a certain, font size, and they were complaining back and forth about it. That's that. When you said that, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, that's a manager's problem, which is why we're the musicians who just get to show up and have fun and eat good food and catch good music and
love it.
That.
All right, my last question, so you can get to testifying.
Yeah.
I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Oh man. Well, soak in all the inspiration, but ultimately do your thing and trust your gut. And really, like, it's so basic, but like, just have fun. Don't take yourself too seriously. That doesn't mean you still need to try really hard, push yourself, practice, do the things that aren't like glamorous and fun, like, helping manage the bands, promoting. But ultimately, like, if you're having fun, it makes all of those like work moments so much easier and worth it. We started this band for fun, like I said, just to like make friends, and we're still making friends and having fun. It is like our full-time job, but it never feels like that. Even when people say, like, if you do what you love, you'd never work a day in your life, and that's not true. You're going to work a lot, but you're going to enjoy what you're doing. You're going to have no issue working hard, and you get to have fun. So I don't know. I mean, I really would just say, like, to not take yourself too seriously. Take the work seriously, but not take yourself too seriously, and enjoy what you're doing. Because if you're not, like, you got to find something that makes you happy, because it's pretty unavoidable to have to work in life. And if you can find something that makes the work go down smooth, then you've unlocked a big piece of the puzzle there.
will do.